how are you all? Today we're talking about how to get a job and the frustrating things that come along with it. And I brought some friends with me. Hello, friends.
Hey, girl.
Do you want to introduce yourselves?
Hi everyone, Maria. I work within marketing.
Hi everyone, I'm Fran Rugo, and I am also within the marketing industry.
Hey guys, my name is Jasmine Young, and I am an entrepreneur. I'm also in sales and project management.
Awesome. These are my friends. I've known them for a long time, and so they were so kind to give me some of their time. So friends, all right, we're just gonna jump into it. So during your life, from the beginning and end of your career, like you graduated college.
Not end. Not
end.
not
Yeah,
end.
not end. I'm sorry.
We're
still alive. But from the beginning of your I graduated college, boom, you're entering into the work world.
Yeah.
Tell me one thing you wish that you have known sooner that you don't know. That you've come to this point where you're like, you know what, man, if I had had that information, I would have not had this bump in the road. I think one of the things for me is being able to speak up for myself and use my voice sooner. Because a lot of times in the beginning of my career, I was really quiet, heads down, just typing, do you see me? It's promotion time. And they're like, no, thank you. You're just doing your job. But feeling confident and ready to be hey, here's what I'm doing. I'm great at it. And knowing how to express my greatness.
I agree. I would say, for me, it was making the most out of every opportunity.
Yes.
Even in every room that you're in is a classroom, right?
Right.
And so everyone you meet, you don't realize that even, those relationships with people you meet are important and they can follow you. And you can always reconnect with people later on. So you always want to be networking and connecting with people in every situation, whether you're the mail lady or, or serving coffee or whatever it is, because you just never know. And there's always a growth and always a pattern that, you follow. And people, I've found in my career that I've always connected back.
Right.
Yes.
And it's opened the door for a next opportunity, a new opportunity.
So you you never want to burn a bridge.
So you never want to burn a bridge.
Never want to burn a bridge, but I think being mindful of your networking 100%. Having a conversation with someone, doesn't matter what role they have. Really, being mindful of that conversation that you have and continuing that relationship in some way.
Right.
Whether it be on LinkedIn, you send them an email.
Yes.
I think something I wish I would have known too is definitely to have a voice for myself, but to also be okay with sitting back and observing a little bit, because I think it's so quick to you get into place, you want to grow, you want to contribute, you want to do all these things, and it's sometimes it's okay to just take the step, be in the position, observe everything around you, and then figure out what your next move is, versus feeling I'm here and then I know already I want to be there. It's just be a little bit.
And I can relate to that because it's give yourself that learning curve.
Right.
Don't be so hard on yourself. I gotta go at it. I gotta go hard. It's
right.
I mean, I tend to do that too. Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
It'll definitely.
Yeah.
I think for me, it was really just I wish I would have realized earlier that the companies that we work for and the things that we strive for, they don't have the human aspect that we give them. So, when you're interviewing or you're at work and you're I don't understand why they laid this person off, or I don't understand why I didn't get that job, and then you instantly take it so personally when it's actually not personal at all. So I think a lot of the times giving these human characteristics to companies and to things that aren't human can hurt you, because then all of a sudden it feels like a personal blow, when at the same time it's no, you might just have not fit all the things they were looking for, and that's okay. You might fit something else better.
Yeah.
But it's not this personal, every choice, every decision doesn't necessarily, it's not you are betraying me in any way.
Right.
It's really just the company could be heading in a different direction.
Yeah. But you feel so passionate about it because this is
Right.
you're there all day, you put so much into it. And at the end of the day, you have to remember this is business.
This is a company, and it'll keep going on,
100%.
and it'll keep doing well.
Yeah.
But I also think that with that, something that's important is to you are human. And that's not going to change. We are human, right?
Yeah.
The business may not be human, but we are. So to be able to bring that, but kind of know where you can draw the line too, where it's not personal and it's business, but then you have that human, authentic aspect to who you are and what you bring to your role, right? But I 100% agree with you. I think there's got to be a balance though between the both, because otherwise you're just going to you feel like a robot essentially,
yeah,
you know, and
right.
that doesn't feel good either. So it's finding the balance between it, but also not taking things personally too, because you're right. Like at the end of the day, it's a business decision.
Right.
Yeah,
And-
you can only bring your energy, and I think like you always have to play the game of sort of like what pieces of myself am I willing to protect, and which pieces am I
Yes.
able to like let go and surrender
Yes.
to
I like
something
that.
that is just life happening, you know?
Right.
Exactly. That makes sense. And then in your journey, how do you feel the digital aspect? Because I remember, I'm dating myself, but 11 years ago when I graduated, I was just talking to my husband about this. I was like, we didn't have LinkedIn, right? We had like careerbuilder.com.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, no, it's
right.
true, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
like, we didn't have all these like digital pieces, but like,
Yeah.
how important is LinkedIn and a digital footprint now, like, for your maintaining your career, for networking, and like even
So-
getting a new job?
I think it's huge.
So crazy.
At least for me, I don't know.
Yes.
I find that LinkedIn has just become sort of this like untapped resource, and I think like a few years ago, it was actually my dad who sat me down, and he was sort of like, "We need to work on this together," and he kind of hit me with goals of sort of like how many people, and just like explaining to me it doesn't work like Facebook, and it's different, and it's this tool that you can really leverage to show yourself in this whole other world and make connections, and it's a way to introduce yourself at times too,
Exactly.
because if it opens up the portal to all of a sudden saying, hey, I read an article that you put on LinkedIn and I love this particular piece. When would I have ever met that person in real
Right.
life?
It's true.
Or how many people
You know?
you see and you're like, you shared an article last week that really resonated.
loved
I'm
it.
like, what article? Did
Yeah.
that was like last week. It's really
Right.
interesting.
Or I have people that are like, I see that you're going to this event. Do you mind if I go with you? And I'm like, yes, you're more than welcome to go with me. Let's go.
Buddy.
It's totally fine.
And I know that LinkedIn is now like that go-to when recruiters are interviewing and managers are
Yes.
interviewing. You got what you got on your resume, right? You
Right.
got your history, but your experience and your professional history. But people go to LinkedIn to kind of get a feel for who is that person, you know, or on
100%.
social media.
Right.
And
Who
you
are they
can-
outside of work, and kind of who is their character, and
You can
and,
easy apply. I
Yes.
mean, it's
Yeah.
become an avenue of traffic that
Right.
you didn't have
It's like
before.
easier access to the company that was
Right.
not there before.
As a person, but then also as company, like it's such a really big tool for B2B businesses.
Yes.
And B2B marketing in general. But I actually got my current job through LinkedIn, where a recruiter from the actual company reached out
there
to
you
me.
go.
She
There you
reached
go.
out to me, and I was like, you know, and a lot of recruiters, that's the one hard part with it. When you are actively searching, you know, you'll get messages from recruiters from all over the place, and that can get hard in the job search journey. But what I decided to take upon in my job search was I was gonna talk to those that had an email from the company that they said that they were hiring for. So that was how I was trying to play strategic there, and it was great. I mean, it was a great conversation. I was like, yeah, sure, you know, and it was actually for a different position. She had sent me a position. I was like, no, it's not what I'm looking for. She's like, let's just hop on a phone call, and I was like, all right, let's do it.
Why not?
And then, you know, here I am today. So
We always say yes to you're like, I'll have a conversation because you never know what it leads to. You're
right,
like,
yeah.
well, let's talk.
Yeah, I would say definitely always keep it fresh and like
Right.
make sure that it reflects sort of like where you are now.
Yeah,
and I
sure.
think
Definitely.
always have it sort of ready and accessible, because there's so many times where I'll go to conferences or meetings and they'll be like, all right, let's turn on the sharing feature. And then like, if you don't know what that is, that's amazing, because all of a sudden it's like everyone in that room who's on linked can all of a sudden like see who else is by them.
Right.
And I think that's an easy way to connect with a bunch of people through
Yeah.
LinkedIn.
Exactly.
So it's just a good way to keep tabs, especially when like not everybody brings business cards.
Yeah.
So
Right.
think about it like a virtual business card
Right.
too.
Right.
We
where-
do that all the
Yeah.
time. We meet someone and you're like, hey, what's your LinkedIn? And you immediately
Yeah.
link, you're like, nice to meet you.
Or you're like, I don't have a card.
Yes.
Can
And
I
it-
add me on LinkedIn?
Yeah.
You
Right.
know?
Yeah.
And it's like
Right.
immediately. And I love that. And you can check on like, oh, this person shares articles and you
Yeah.
can see how active they are.
it gives
I
them like
it.
their professional like business
Yeah.
background. You
Yeah,
know?
I love
and,
it.
and that's
Yeah.
really that's and I like that you said keep it fresh, because I think what I've seen and what I really enjoy is when people like have their like little headline, and not be the company that they work for or their position, but rather like I'm a strategist,
Right,
you know,
right.
I'm a digital
Exactly.
marketer,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or where you want to go.
or where
Yeah.
you want to
Yeah.
go.
Yeah, I
But I
love
think
that.
also keep it fun, because like, and
Yes.
add your personality. So like I used to have entrepreneur on there too, but now I have trying to make a world a better place. Like that is my goal in life, and I think like no matter where I go and what job I do, I want to help make planet Earth great. So I think that also helps you stand apart from other people in when you're job searching.
That's
You got to think strategically that way too.
Because they'll look below and go, how is she doing that again?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
You're
I think
she was passionate about this, and then they're like,
Your brand, girl.
Exactly.
Personal branding.
Yes, exactly. And
Yeah.
it is such a big personal brand thing.
Yes.
But I think it's an exercise I like to do every so often too is Google my name.
Yes.
Put my name in Google.
Yes.
Put Francesca Rugo because that's my full name. And so just to be able to kind of see what comes up because there's things I did in college that come up and
my
like,
gosh.
there's
Yeah.
that
Old
video
Facebook
that people
photos.
Oh my God. Every day I am so happy that we did not have Facebook in high school. I was like, I'm sorry, kids, I feel bad for you.
Telling you.
You're like, this is crazy. Like,
It
so
follows you everywhere you go.
I was just gonna say, like, what are you not posting or posting because you realize if you want a different job or to change your career, other companies are looking.
And they do look at it. They definitely do.
So are you monitoring what you post? Are you posting some things or keeping some things private?
I think, you just have to ask yourself sort of like, if I'm meeting you for the first time and I know nothing about you, but I've only seen what the world has seen.
Yeah.
Do I want to get to know you?
Right.
And hopefully the answer is like, yes, I think like your actions speak a lot about it. And unfortunately it is sometimes the first thing that I'll see about you before I even meet you.
Right.
True.
Because just
Because
today
people Facebook.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's
People
true.
also like will check and will Google you before they meet
Yeah.
you, you know?
Right.
Even if your account is private, it's not private. They can
No.
still
Right.
see
You
can
can
things.
put profile description.
And that's a few photos of you.
Or you're private, but
Right.
you're not. And
Right,
also,
right.
she's posted a lot about you. All of a sudden, you've just become a public account, you know?
Right.
So
Exactly.
Right.
you have to
Yeah.
keep it in mind.
Yeah.
My husband always says like Facebook and like Instagram, these are like your front yard. So don't post things you would do in your bedroom.
Oh, for
Right.
sure.
I love that.
For sure.
It's your front yard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
The backyard could be crazy outside.
Exactly.
Right.
That's
He's like,
right.
no,
Yeah.
keep
Good
it
way to
cute.
think about it.
Right, keep it like
Yes. Yes.
only things that you would do in your front yard. Like,
Right.
don't barbecue in
that.
your front yard.
Yeah.
You're like,
You do your gardening.
exactly.
Right.
The cute gardener,
Right.
right?
It's
Like,
fine. Yes.
That is true.
what do you think are some of the tips for like interviewing to like have a solid interview? And then give us an example of like when you blew it at an interview.
I think I always, before any interview, like I practice a little bit of mindfulness, like just before.
Yeah.
So I kind of do like a check of sort of like what I'm grateful for, and it just makes me feel like all of a sudden it's not all resting on this one interview, you know, where it's like I have a lot of blessings in my life. I have all these things that are doing really well, and then it just makes it feel like it's not like I need this to go well.
Yeah.
You know, you just go in feeling like we're gonna see how this goes, and if not, we're gonna be okay.
Yeah.
I like that.
Check
I like to-
yourself a little bit.
I like to think of it too as a mutual interview, right?
Right.
To that
Oh,
point, like
they're
after you're
interviewing,
mindful,
yeah,
like
it's
two
who
ways.
are
Exactly.
you?
Right.
Does
And
like
it's
your
100%.
thoughts and what you stand for resonate with me
Yes.
as well? Like what kind of
It has
manager?
to be
And
a
that's
match,
definitely
yeah.
one of the tips I was going to say is, make it a conversation, interject with questions. When they ask a question,
Yeah.
well then ask one back. And,
Right.
make it, and
Yeah.
not make it so Q&A, but
Yes.
just like have a conversation, like you said, get
Yeah.
to know and understand too, because you're working there, and so, you're choosing them just as much as they're choosing you.
100%.
Right,
I like that. Yeah, that's something to keep in mind. The yoga teacher in me loved what you shared about mindfulness.
I felt it. You were like,
I was like, yes. I didn't share that in my intro, but I'm
Yeah.
in marketing and I'm also an entrepreneur / yoga instructor. So
Nice.
mindfulness, I think, is so important. I think what's also important too is like thinking about what you value. And for the past few years that I've been kind of searching, like, what is my next move? What's my purpose? What do I want to do next? I think like coming back to what you value and writing those down, and then you can take those into your interview, right? Because like it's going to be easy to show up to something that you hold true to your values, right? And so like maybe communication is something you value. You question, what does communication look like, or like maybe you want to know about a day-to-day and they're like, I don't know, maybe the day-to-day is crazy when they tell you about what the day-to-day
Right.
is, and you're like, you know what, that doesn't seem like something I could thrive in. So I think like coming back to mindfulness and values, I think, when you can work from a place that, or ask questions from a place that you understand what your values are, then you can better like be more authentic in your interviews too. And do your research. Like, research the people that you're going to be interviewing with.
Yes,
It's
research
okay.
the company.
Research the company. That was one of the things I was going to
Well,
say. A
yeah.
lot of people don't take the time.
Thing is, yeah, because a lot of the time, like, those records are public. You can see, like, also, like, the company's earnings. You can see if it's a public company, you can start to easily see sort of, like, what are the gaps and what are the challenges that they've had.
Right.
And then go in, because that's going to be one of the questions they, like, also, you know, a lot of interviews follow a formula, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
I think it's, like, one of those things where you already know a little bit of the questions that are coming your way.
Yeah.
And usually one of them is sort of like, what do you think are the top challenges that we face at this company, and how would you tackle them?
Yeah.
So that helps you be prepared to answer that question,
Of course.
and then not be scared to toss it back and be sort of, what are some of the challenges that you think you face with your current team, you know?
Right.
And you can easily have that, like, dialogue.
And you look like a superstar when you come in. You're like, this is what's going on in the industry. I read this press
Right.
release.
You
How
know
are
your
you
stuff.
handling this
Right.
internally? And they're like, oh, you actually read up upon us.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of people who show up and then they have no questions and they have no feedback.
I mean, I'm a bit guilty of that. Like, having gone through the, you know, I mean,
Yes.
like, when someone's like, yeah, we'll interview you, I'm like, oh, yeah, sure, I'll have an interview, you know? But it depends. Like, I think it goes back to, like, what are you looking for? Like, sometimes you can be in a place in life where you're desperate and you just need a job, right?
Yeah.
And it's okay to take those interviews.
Right.
But then if you're at a point where you're starting to grow, or you kind of have an idea of where you want to go, it's okay to be selective.
Yeah.
Definitely be okay to be selective.
For sure.
But I think also, like, you know, be prepared, but you don't have to be overly prepared either.
Right.
Like, I think the more authentic you are, the better the interview will go, because they want to know you as a person. Obviously that you've done your research, but you more so, like, who are you, and would you be a great fit on our team?
Exactly.
You know, and in our company. So
it's good to also play with your strengths. I mean, if you know that you're an introvert and you know that talking for you is really hard, then it's okay to, like, call your friend, call your mom, call your uncle, call whoever you want, and just be like, can you just pretend to ask me a few questions?
Right.
Because if you're an introvert and it's hard for you to engage like this, then it's one of those things where it's like, do what you need to do, but know that it's okay, because you offer something that an extrovert might not be able to.
But to that
and
point,
it's okay. You know?
There, like, when I was interviewing, even before my current position, when there was no one to practice with, I would apply for random jobs and then just, like, bomb them.
but that's a good practice.
I would apply for, like, customer. I'd be like, I want to be a cashier at McDonald's. They're like, really? I'm like, no, I just need this time.
But, like, that's one of those things, like, even when you have a job,
I just need this time.
but it's
So when you have nobody, like,
that's
you do
true.
what you can,
It's
right?
experience.
Right.
Every
Practice.
little
Yeah.
thing is a part of, like, an experience, and you. Every interview you have, you're learning more about yourself, and you're like,
Exactly.
oh, I would
Yeah.
probably say this a different way, or this, or whatever.
Right.
And so, but I think also, like, taking the time to be mindful and reflect upon where you've been. Like,
Yes.
what are things, like, what were certain scenarios that you can think of off the top of your head that you're like, okay, when they challenge me, like,
they're gonna ask you.
they're gonna ask me
Yeah.
a scenario and how we managed it, right?
Can you name a time? Can you tell me about a
Yeah.
time?
Always.
Right, and I always
Can
I
you
get
name?
stuck.
When I hear that,
I
I'm
get
like,
stuck.
oh.
I'm like, what is that?
Yes,
triggered
I am
you.
triggered. They're like, can you name a time? Like, I don't want to name a time.
I want to let it go. But
And then you have to think fast, right? They're
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
because you're like, I saved the world, and then I look great, right? You have to,
or
like,
even
and paint it in a
I
good
think
light.
something, not even something that, like, a difficult challenge. I think
Yeah.
something too that I struggle with, and I think it's just being that confidence piece is, like, what is something you're proud of? Like, you know, we do a lot of things on a day-to-day basis that we should take the time to think about. Okay, I'm proud that I got through 5 emails today, or
Right.
you know, finished something in like 45 minutes. But I think we forget about that, and it's just like celebrating your wins along the way too, and writing them down and creating, just like we think about, like, our digital footprint. I think creating a portfolio of your work, because it's so easy to be let go from a job and you don't have what you need, and then you forget, right? Because that was a negative experience, so you're going to put it in the back of your head. I think, or things that you're like, I'm so proud of, if I can share this, like, you know, obviously some things are confidential, but if there's something that you can share or bring with, put that aside, because you're going to need to build your portfolio at some point. Add that there. So
Yeah, I mean, that's just also good practice, like, while you're in your current job. I mean,
Right.
I think it was one of those things where it's like, I can't name how many times, like, you're working and you kind of aren't paying attention to the accomplishments along the way.
Yeah.
And then when it's time to write, like, let's say, like, a personal review
Yes.
or personal
Yeah.
development
Right.
review, you kind of blank, because obviously, like, you're in it every day. I can
Right.
tell Christina all the things that she just shined on this year,
Yeah.
but she might, because she was in it,
Right.
not
I wouldn't
Yeah, I didn't think of it like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Right.
Not at
If you're
all.
writing down
Yeah.
sort of your quick wins and also your longer like
Yeah.
term goals, I think like then you're ready even for those like moments where you're like, tell me about what you did this year, and you don't like freeze, you know? You're
Yeah.
like,
But I like-
actually,
What I like to do is like at the end of every month, I call it like a personal date with myself. I take myself to like a nice coffee, and then I make a list of like, what did I do at work this month?
what went well?
What
yeah.
went well? Because when you're like 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, like you don't have time to like think about what I did
No.
well. But like on a Saturday when it's calm, you're like, what did I do professionally? What did I do personally? And you're like, oh, I actually did a lot of things. Like,
Yeah.
like you said, being mindful and like celebrating yourself. I think we missed that along the way.
Right. Well, we're go. It's just a
Yeah.
part of the society we're a part of. But I think if we just all kind of practiced that time, that just taking the step back and like reflecting upon where we've been, it's easier to share what we've accomplished, you know, and to be okay to own it and be proud of it. I think that's something I struggle with in my career sometimes, where I'm like, I did this and I'm so proud of this, you know, and why is it, I don't know why I struggle with sharing it, but I think a part of it is I also don't want to feel like,
You're bragging on yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what
But
I was
it's
gonna say.
okay.
It's hard
And
to.
you're-
Yeah,
yes.
it's like that's why I was like, it's something I had to learn, right? Because in
Right.
the beginning, I would never say anything, but I would leave the meeting. I'm like, man, but I really did a lot of
Yeah.
great
The men's
things.
club do it all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how they, you know,
That's-
that's how
it's
they
true.
interact.
It's like, how do I humble brag more, right? And
Yes.
not being like boastful about it, but like, hey, I'm pretty awesome. Like,
Right.
I did a few of these things, and not being like, I'm sorry, I was great.
right.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, it's no secret that, like, I think, like, we admire, I think, Brene Brown for exactly that reason. She
Yes.
says it all the time. She's like, if you don't own your story, somebody else will.
Right.
Yeah,
And I think,
that's
like,
right.
that's
That's so
your
true.
moment to really just say, how do I want people to tell my story? Because
100%.
people are gonna, that's the thing, you're not in every room at every time.
Right.
So I think it's a huge piece to say, sort of, you know, I need an advocate, cheerleader, a sponsor in those rooms that I can't be in, because
Right.
if not,
Yeah.
like, they're gonna tell a story about me regardless.
Yeah.
So it's
Right.
really like,
Yeah.
if you don't own it, you're letting somebody else do it. So you might as well have it as yours,
Of course.
you know?
Exactly.
And I think also having the right like support around you, right? Like as
That's
much
true.
as you're interviewing,
Yeah.
they're interviewing you. You have to interview that team and make sure that it's a
Yes.
good fit
It's a
for
good
you.
fit.
Yeah.
And
right.
you want someone that you know a supervisor who will support you too, and like not give you all that like positive feedback every single week, but
That's
enough
true.
that
Yeah.
when it comes, it feels that positive reinforcement, that positive feedback
Yeah.
feels good because they are recognizing you, right? Because like we can recognize ourselves for as much as we want, but we need also the other people who have power to make sure that we can get that promotion,
Right.
you know, to also recognize us. But I think we in our interview process have to ask how that happens from a management standpoint, and
Yeah,
then
for
when
sure.
we're in those management roles, to be mindful of like what is it that we enjoy, and maybe you know, one of my favorite managers sent me a document once, and he said it was, how do you want to be managed? And like
Oh, I
it was
love
just
that, yeah.
filling out questions of how I want to be managed, you know, and he is introverted and I'm extroverted, and so like trying to figure out like how does that relationship work,
That's
you know?
Yeah.
It was probably one of the best things I filled out, or I've had
Great.
a manager share with
Yeah.
me. It was
That's
so
great.
Because
Good
they normally
exercise.
don't ask.
No,
right?
they don't.
right.
Later in my career, I started asking, like, so how do you manage? Like, what
Yeah.
does success look like for you?
Yes.
Right.
'Cause
Right?
they have
Yes.
their goals too.
Right.
Right.
They
And
do.
if you don't
Right.
know, then you'll be going on. You're like, I'm sorry, there's like a disconnect, or I don't
Yeah.
like the way that you're managing me.
Yeah, because if they don't like people, then you're like, well.
Hey.
And
Like,
finding like
yeah.
different ways to ask it, right? Because
Right.
before I used to be like, I don't like to be micromanaged. Are you a micromanager? And
Right.
of course, people are gonna say no.
Right.
But like finding creative ways. Do you
No,
like to work
it's true.
together? Do you like
Right.
the hands-off approach? But like finding ways to ask that, so you get down to like their true management style, or as
Yeah.
close to it as possible in the
Yeah.
interview.
I think also something I've learned along the way is trust your gut. Your
Yeah.
gut's always going to tell you yes or no. And it's okay
Yeah.
if your gut feels a bit nervous, but you have more positive than you do of anything like questioning wise.
Yeah.
Trust your gut. Your gut's going to like lead you into the right direction. And
Oh,
and if it has led me into a wrong direction, the universe has thrown things upon my path to show me that it was not right, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to embrace it. And but I think like going into these things, like trust your gut. If you connect with someone, like embrace that. Connect
Yeah.
with them and be like, you
Right.
know what, I think this is a step I should take.
Right.
If you don't vibe with them, don't tribe with them. Like
Yes.
don't go with them, you know?
You don't
Like,
vibe with them, don't
Yeah.
vibe with
I
them.
just made that up. I was like, what rhymes with tribe? I was like, tribe.
We got
hashtag, right. You're like, and done, right? Like, if you don't vibe with them, don't.
But it's so true.
Hashtag.
If you don't vibe with them, like there's no need, like there's no place for you to be on that team. And you know that. You know what you want to tolerate, you know, and you know what things you don't want to tolerate. Hopefully you have that self-awareness. I think just if your gut's telling you no, don't do it. Like wait an extra 2 months, 3 months that you have to if you're you know looking for something. Yeah. And know that the right thing is going to come upon your path, or something that would be a little bit better than the thing that didn't make you feel right about taking that position.
And being okay to say no. Like,
that is
like,
the biggest thing.
You know what? This is a great interview. I learned so much about you, but right now, like, this is not
a good fit.
It's not a good fit for me.
If the offer comes through and it just doesn't align with your life and your goals and where you thought it was going to go, it's totally okay to say no.
Right. You're like, think on it, pray on it. You're like, that really doesn't sit well.
And if you're trying to force it,
it
doesn't feel right.
That's like anything, you know?
Yeah.
Right.
If you don't vibe with it, don't try with it. Man, I like put on a t-shirt. That's it. Like, hi, Christina here. I hope you're enjoying our conversation about how to get a job, what tools to use, how to feel comfortable, and how to decide if this is the right company and right fit for you. Join us in episode 2, where we talk further about the right fit between you and the company, more tips and tricks, and just a great conversation about being professional in the workplace. So if you want to hear more about that, we'll see you in episode 2.